Imagine being just 13 years old. And Disney, the most powerful studio on earth, puts a contract in front of you. On that contract is a number. A number so life-changing, so impossible to ignore, that it would make almost anyone say, yes, before even reading the fine print. $2 million. For a kid who had only just started his career, this was not just money. It was a dream, a future, a golden ticket. Most people would have taken it. Most parents, too. Because $2 million in the early 1990s wasn't just wealth, it was generational change. But Jason Weaver, or more precisely, Jason Weaver's mother, saw something the rest of the world couldn't. She turned it down. She told her son, "We're going to do this differently." And because of that one choice, Jason Weaver went from being just another child actor, to one of the smartest royalty stories in Hollywood history. But to really understand why this was so powerful, we have to rewind. We have to go back to Jason's beginnings, to his upbringing, to his mother's vision, and to the cultural phenomenon that was the Lion King. Only then do we see the weight of that moment. Only then do we understand why a 13-year-old boy, guided by his mother, turned down $2 million up front, and how that decision has paid him, year after year, for almost 3 decades. Jason Weaver was born in 1979 in Chicago, Illinois. If you've ever been to Chicago, you know it's a city of contrasts. It's a place of skyscrapers and deep dish pizza, yes. But also a place of grinding winters, tough neighborhoods, and the kind of hustle that either breaks you, or makes you. Jason's mother, Kitty Haywood, was no stranger to that hustle. She was a professional singer herself, part of the vocal group Kitty and the Haywoods. She knew the music industry. She knew its promises, its illusions, its contracts, and the traps hidden between the lines. More importantly, she knew talent when she saw it. And Jason had it. Even as a little boy, Jason showed signs of being special. He wasn't just singing songs, he was performing them. He could bend his voice, carry emotion, and pour his soul into every note. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, Jason was already making waves. He appeared on TV shows. He landed small roles. He was building momentum. But the big break? The one that would change everything? That came in 1993, when Disney called. To understand how big this was, we need to talk about Disney in the early 1990s. This was the Renaissance. After struggling in the 70s and 80s, Disney had roared back with The Little Mermaid, 1989, Beauty and the Beast, 1991, and Aladdin, 1992. Each film had smashed records. Each had unforgettable music. Disney wasn't just making movies, they were creating cultural events. Their soundtracks were topping charts. Their characters were becoming legends. And then came The Lion King. This wasn't just another animated film. Even before release, Disney executives whispered, "This one is different. This one is going to last forever." A story about courage, about family, about loss and responsibility. It had themes of legacy, destiny, and the circle of life itself. It was Shakespeare's Hamlet rewritten for children, wrapped in African-inspired music, and delivered with some of the greatest voice actors of all time. And in the middle of this massive production, was Jason Weaver. Jason was chosen as the singing voice of young Simba. Not the speaking role, that went to Jonathan Taylor Thomas, a huge child star at the time. But the songs? I Just Can't Wait to Be King. Hakuna Matata. Those were Jason's. His voice would forever define Simba's childhood innocence, his energy, his joy. This was no small thing. The songs were the heartbeat of Disney movies. And Jason's voice would carry them for generations. But before recording could begin, Disney had a contract to sign. Picture this moment. Jason, barely a teenager. His mother, sitting by his side. A Disney executive slides a document across the table. On the page, $2 million upfront. It's hard to even process a number like that when you're a kid. Most adults wouldn't know how to react. $2 million. That could pay off homes, cars, college, security for life. And this was the early 90s, when 2 million went much, much further than today. But there was a catch. If Jason took the 2 million, that was it. No royalties. No share in the future. Just one payday. One golden ticket. This is where Kitty Haywood, Jason's mother, became the hero of the story. She looked at the contract. She looked at her son. And then she said something most parents would never say. No. Instead, she countered. Jason would take a smaller upfront payment, around $100,000. But he would also receive royalties. That meant every time The Lion King made money, through VHS sales, DVDs, Blu-rays, merchandise, theater re-releases, Broadway shows, and eventually streaming, Jason would get paid. It was a gamble. And let's be honest, it was risky. At the time, no one could guarantee The Lion King would be a hit. Disney believed in it, yes. But movies flop all the time. Turning down $2 million for the possibility of royalties? Most people thought she was crazy. But Kitty Haywood wasn't just thinking about today. She was thinking about tomorrow. She was thinking about 20, 30, even 50 years into the future. Think about the courage it takes to make that call. You're not rich. You're not guaranteed stability. And yet you look at your son, at this opportunity, and you say, "We'll wait. We'll build. We'll trust the future." At that moment, Jason Weaver didn't just get a role in The Lion King. He got a financial legacy. A decision that would keep paying him, year after year, long after the movie left theaters. And the crazy part? That gamble paid off bigger than anyone could have imagined. Once the contracts were signed, Jason Weaver stepped into something very few kids ever experience, the inside of a Disney production at its absolute peak. Recording for The Lion King wasn't some casual, small studio job. It was serious. Disney had pulled in some of the greatest talents in the world, not just animators, but songwriters, producers, voice coaches, and directors who were all determined to make this film unforgettable. And there was Jason, a 13-year-old kid from Chicago, walking into a world of polished professionals, billion-dollar stakes, and creative giants. Imagine the pressure. Imagine being told, "You are Simba. You are the sound of childhood innocence. You are the voice kids will sing along to for decades." Jason had no way of knowing at the time, but those hours behind the microphone, those sessions where he sang, "I just can't wait to be king," over and over until every note was perfect, were about to echo across the entire planet. Jason remembers those sessions clearly. They weren't easy. Disney wanted perfection. The songs were written by Elton John and lyricist Tim Rice, with Hans Zimmer working on arrangements. These were not simple pop songs. They had energy, rhythm, culture. They needed to feel alive. Jason would step up to the microphone, headphones on, and deliver. Take after take. His mother often sat in the booth, watching closely. She wasn't just a parent, she was a coach, a protector, and sometimes the only person reminding Jason, "You belong here." Because think about it, for a young black teenager to stand at the heart of the biggest Disney film of all time, it wasn't common. It was intimidating. And yet, Jason's voice carried through every lyric, giving Simba the spark that made him unforgettable. "I Just Can't Wait to Be King" wasn't just a song. It was joy bottled into 3 minutes. Hakuna Matata wasn't just silly words. It was a promise that life could be carefree. Jason's voice gave Simba life. And when the sessions were done, his part of history was locked in. Now, here's where the suspense kicks in. Jason had done his work. The movie was nearly finished. The songs were recorded. The animators were polishing every frame. But the world didn't know yet. No one outside Disney had seen The Lion King. So Jason and his mother had to wait. And during that wait, the gamble weighed heavy. They had turned down $2 million. $2 million. That wasn't just money left on the table, it was money some people never see in their entire lifetime. Jason later admitted he didn't fully understand the gravity at the time. But his mother did. She knew there were no guarantees. Movies flop. Even Disney movies sometimes miss. If The Lion King stumbled, Jason would be stuck with $100,000. Far less than what was offered. That's the kind of gamble that keeps you awake at night. Finally, in June 1994, the world got its first look. The premiere of The Lion King wasn't just a movie release. It was an event. Families lined up around blocks. Theaters sold out across the country. The marketing was everywhere: posters, commercials, toys at fast food chains. And when the lights went down and the first notes of "Circle of Life" played, audiences were stunned. They had never seen anything like it. From the opening sunrise to Mufasa's roar, to Simba's journey from cub to king, the film wasn't just entertainment. It was art. It was timeless. And the songs? Oh, the songs stuck in people's heads immediately. Children sang them walking out of theaters. Adults bought the soundtrack albums. "I Just Can't Wait to Be King" became an anthem for kids around the world. Jason Weaver's voice was everywhere. The gamble? It paid off. The Lion King didn't just succeed. It obliterated expectations. By the end of its theatrical run, it had earned nearly $1 billion worldwide. At the time, it became the highest-grossing animated film in history. The soundtrack sold millions of copies. The VHS release in 1995 became one of the best-selling home videos of all time, selling over 30 million copies worldwide. Every single one of those sales meant royalties. And that's when Jason's mother's vision began to prove itself. Jason recalls those first royalty checks arriving. At first, they weren't mind-blowing. A few thousand here, maybe tens of thousands there. Enough to notice, but not earth-shattering. But the key was consistency. Every time The Lion King earned money, whether from theater re-releases, VHS sales, DVD launches, or soundtrack royalties, Jason got paid. While other child actors burned through one-time paychecks and faded into obscurity, Jason had something different: a pipeline. A river that never stopped flowing. Year after year, decade after decade, those checks kept coming. And here's the beautiful part: they still come today. Think about it. If Jason had taken the $2 million, he would have had a life-changing payday in 1994. But that money would be long gone by now. Spent, taxed, forgotten. Instead, because of his mother's decision, Jason built something far more valuable: ownership. He owns a piece of Simba. A piece of Disney's crown jewel. And every time a child anywhere in the world sings along to Simba's songs, a small piece of that moment echoes back into Jason Weaver's life. But here's the thing: The Lion King didn't stop in 1994. It came back. Again, and again, and again. Through Broadway. Through sequels. Through remastered editions. Through streaming on Disney+. Each time, those royalty checks kept arriving. And what seemed like a crazy gamble in 1994, became one of the greatest financial lessons in entertainment history. Now let's pause for a moment and think about the magnitude of this choice. At the time Jason Weaver was offered this deal, he wasn't a global superstar. He wasn't a household name. He was a young actor and singer still finding his way. Most kids his age would have been dazzled by the thought of $2 million up front. Let's be honest, most adults would have taken that money without even thinking twice. $2 million, life-changing, right? Pay off debts. Buy a house. Secure your family. Take care of everything in one swoop. That kind of money in the 90s was enormous, equivalent to even more today. But Jason's mother saw what many couldn't. She saw beyond the glitter of the moment. She recognized that The Lion King wasn't just another cartoon. It was a Disney masterpiece in the making. She believed it would be timeless. She believed it would outlast trends, fads, and maybe even their own lifetimes. And so, she told Jason something both bold and terrifying. Take the royalties. It was a risky gamble. Because let's not forget, the movie industry is unpredictable. For every hit, there are dozens of flops. What if The Lion King didn't work? What if people didn't like it? What if the royalties ended up being pennies compared to the $2 million up front? But his mother trusted her instincts. She believed that sometimes the best investment isn't the money you grab today, it's the seed you plant for tomorrow. Jason listened. He chose to trust her wisdom. He walked away from the $2 million and instead accepted $100,000 upfront along with royalties for life. Now imagine the weight of that decision. Imagine being young, knowing you could have had instant millions, and instead settling for just $100,000, knowing the rest depended on a gamble. Most people would have doubted themselves. Most people would have lost sleep. Most people would have regretted the choice every day until the results showed up. But then, The Lion King was released. And the world changed. This wasn't just a movie. It was a cultural earthquake. From the moment the opening sequence began, Nansing Nyama Bagithi Baba, audiences knew they were witnessing something unforgettable. The music, the story, the emotion, it was unlike anything Disney had ever done before. The Lion King became a phenomenon. It didn't just break records, it shattered them. It became one of Disney's most successful films of all time. Kids rewatched it endlessly. Families cried together at Mufasa's death. People sang along to Hakuna Matata and Circle of Life. It wasn't just entertainment. It was art. It was memory. It was legacy. And Jason Weaver's voice, as young Simba, was forever etched into history. But here's the kicker. Because he chose royalties, every single rewatch, every VHS tape, every DVD sale, every streaming release, every time the film was reintroduced to a new generation, Jason got paid. When The Lion King was re-released in theaters. When the Broadway musical adaptation became a global sensation. When Disney brought it to DVD. When it hit Blu-ray. When it came to Disney+. When the live-action remake in 2019 reignited the franchise for a new audience. Every single time. Jason Weaver's decision paid off. And it's still paying off to this day. Now here's the lesson for us. This isn't just about money. This is about vision. This is about the ability to look beyond the short-term glitter and see the long-term gold. So many of us face choices every day that feel like Jason's choice. Maybe not millions of dollars. Maybe not a Disney contract. But the same principle applies. Do we grab the quick reward, the instant gratification, the paycheck that looks good today? Or do we invest in the seeds that might take years to grow but could pay us for a lifetime? Jason's story is proof that sometimes, the long game is the smarter game. His mother wasn't just thinking about today, she was thinking about tomorrow, about the legacy, about what lasts. And that's a perspective most people miss. Because the truth is, wealth isn't always about the money you make in one moment. Real wealth, real success, comes from the streams that keep flowing long after the work is done. Residuals. Royalties. Ownership. Equity. These are the things that pay you while you sleep. Jason Weaver's voice was recorded once. But because of his mother's wisdom, that voice still generates income decades later. Now let me ask you this, What decisions are you making today that could echo into your future? Are you chasing the fast money? Or are you building something that will pay you, your family, and maybe even generations after you? Jason's story isn't just about Hollywood. It's about life. It's about every single one of us who has to make choices between now and later, between the fast reward and the lasting one. So, the next time you're faced with that choice, remember Jason Weaver. Remember his mother's wisdom. Remember the Lion King. And remember this, sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself isn't the paycheck you cash today. It's the legacy you build for tomorrow. Because one choice, one bold, risky, visionary choice, can change everything. This is not just Jason Weaver's story. This could be your story. The question is, are you willing to take the long game?